Kicking off the second half, we have Joya, who, as I mentioned to you, is a journalist, a broadcaster, and now helps a lot of women get their story straight, I suppose, from a journalistic lens. And we're going to talk to Joya about things from her point of view as to how you can build your sales funnel and through collaboration and through brand and storytelling. So, Joya, how do you believe that storytelling can serve as a catalyst for driving sales growth, and particularly in the context of brand building and audience engagement?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, I pretty much tell two kinds of stories every single day in my thought leadership, whether I do it via video or whether I do it via written word. The first kind is a personal story. So, for example, I was horseback riding out in Moab, Utah this past week, and I told a story about a time that my horse just decided to leap into the creek. And I literally saw my life flash before my eyes. But I was really noticing how the facilitator for the course ride was always calm, always role modeling control, and reminding us that we are in control, the animal is not. And I brought that back to business, that so much of leadership can actually be found in places that are completely tangential to the industry that we're in. So I'll always do a brand of storytelling that's personal, but bring it back to business. And the second kind of storytelling that I do is about the client transformations that I've already done. And for purposes of this call today, I actually went back to how I converted the current 5 women that are in my mastermind. And that's a $30,000 product that I'm selling. And the day that I converted one of them, I told another client's transformation story, how I brought her from point A to point B. Point A was that she was interviewing for a job for years and just could not get through round 1 of interview, to the end when she had landed her dream job, and how I took her from point A to point B. And that immediately elicited someone to reach out, get on a phone call with me, and I converted her to a $30,000 product. So I am a big, big believer in not only telling personal stories, the more vulnerable, the better. You're never going to bring a room to its knees without a really vulnerable story. But I also think that there's a way for you to tell it without feeling laid bare. And that's where I come in and I work with my clients to be able to make sure we keep the essence of it. They don't feel like they're naked at the end of it.
That's super interesting, actually, because I think women can tell wonderful stories, but what you're saying is maybe there's a fine line then between, you know, what's like really impactful and maybe what's a little bit too much. So that's super interesting. In your experience, what strategies have you found effective for identifying and engaging with target audiences?
Well, I think Adrian alluded to this. The biggest danger that you can make in business when you're first starting out, and something I did, is try to be everything to everyone. That is just a recipe for disaster. So I think you have to know who your beachhead client is. We call it ideal client profile, and not just know their demographics. I service women who are 45 to 55. I service women who are making 6 figures, either entrepreneurial or corporate. Really knowing that layer of the cake that you service, but also knowing the psychographics of that population. Where do they vacation? What do they like to read? Where do they hang out? Like really understanding that so that you can meet them where they're at. So I think it's I like to tell this story that if I said to you today that I want you to go pick up my cousin at the airport, you'd be like, what? Like, I have no details. But if I said, I want you to go to the airport at 3 o'clock, pick up my cousin who has brown hair and a yellow jacket and is on Delta Flight 28 coming in from Dublin, the chances are that you're going to be able to find my cousin and pick them up because I've given you a level of specificity and armed you with the tools to be able to see her the minute that she comes out of the gate. So I kind of say that an ideal client is similarly, like you're not going to know who that person is unless you've actually defined in great detail who that person is.